John 7:52. Responderunt et dixerunt ei, Nunquid et tu Galilaeus es? Scrutare et vide quia propheta Galilaea non surgit. They answered, and they said to him, Are you also a Galilean? Look into it and see that a prophet, or the prophet, does not arise from Galilee. This is the contemptuous response of the Sanhedrin collectively to Nicodemus's quite reasonable suggestion that before they pass judgment on Jesus, they learn more about what he's doing and why and how and so forth. They don't want to hear it. And we get a double set, a pair of verbs of answering here, and then our customary ei, dative of the person replied to, we might say. And then we get the quotation proper. Probably we need a question mark here in modern punctuation. So here's numquid again. We've seen this a lot lately, indicating that we've got a question. Et tu Galilaeus es? Are you also, we might say in English, a Galilean? One of the people from this sort of disreputable region where the small Jewish population is known to be mixed in with all sorts of unsavory Gentile elements. This is basically tantamount to a kind of slur. Are you also a Galilean, just like Jesus? Scrutare. Now, let's pause and look at this. You might initially be tempted to mistake this for an infinitive, but it's not, in fact, an infinitive. It is a second person singular imperative from the deponent verb scrutor, scrutari. And when you're forming the imperatives from deponent verbs, there's a different set of rules than what you typically will have to think of for verbs that are not deponent. So for a first conjugation deponent verb, your endings are going to be in are for the singular, second person singular imperative, and ami for the second person plural imperative. So if the rest of the members of the Sanhedrin had been replying to not just Nicodemus, but a bunch of other people, they would say, not scrutare, but scrutamini. Scrutamini. Y'all look into it. Examine it. But of course here they're just talking to Nicodemus. And even if you didn't recognize scrutare or understand it initially, hopefully you could see from the parallelism here, we've got to have two second person singular imperatives. That's all that really fits with the sense of these commands here. And vide, hopefully, is clear enough to you in terms of what it's doing there, just as now you understand scrutare. So scrutare et vide, quia, and quia, as very often in the Vulgate, is going to introduce what we want you to look into and see. That is kind of the object of these verbs. In classical Latin, instead of quia plus a finite verb, we'd probably instead have an accusative infinitive construction. We'd have some accusatives with surgere follow at the end of this sentence. But you can also do it this way in the Vulgate, and very often authors do, at least in the translated form that we have now. So scrutare et vide quia propheta, a prophet, or perhaps the eschatologically significant prophet that they have in mind here, a Galilaea non surget. He's not going to come up out of Galilee. That's preposterous. They're just dismissing this idea out of hand.